morning. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danny Laurel. It's the start of a new trading day. Let's kick off with our banner story. Metro Manila and nearby provinces will remain under general community quarantine until July 15th. President Duterte announced in his state speech last night that GCQ, with some restrictions, will continue in NCR, Rizal, and Bulacan, while Laguna and Cavite will remain subjected to heightened restrictions. Meanwhile, 12 provinces and 6 cities are under modified enhanced community quarantine until mid-July. You can see those areas on your screens right now. The president also approved the recommendation of the Interagency Task Force to place 6 cities and 13 provinces under the regular GCQ classification. Those are on your screens right now. And the rest of the country will be under modified GCQ. Now, in his speech, the president said the national government is using all air and sea assets in the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines to far-flung areas. Duterte also told local government units to inform the national government in advance if they have adequate refrigeration facilities to store the doses to prevent wastage. He said the military has assured him that they will take care of the delivery so long as LGUs have the cold storage or equipment necessary for the vaccines. Now, the Philippines returns to the global bond market for the third time this year. The Treasury is set to offer at least $500 million in dollar-denominated bonds. That's to raise funds to support the remaining budget requirements for the year. Yesterday, the Bureau tendered benchmark issuances worth at least $500 million with tenors of 10.5 years and 25 years. The new global bonds are scheduled to be settled on July 6th and will mature on January 6th, 2032 and July 6th, 2046, respectively. National Treasurer Rosalia De Leon said proceeds from the issuance would be used to cover, quote, general budget requirements. The government needs as much funds as it can secure for the second semester as it aims to achieve herd immunity by vaccinating at least 70% of the population by the end of the year. Recall that the government plans to widen its borrowing program this year to plug the budget deficit, which is seen widening to 9.3% of the GDP. How are markets reacting to that status quo? So still under GCQ, at least for Metro Manila, nothing really changes for us here. You can see us pulling back a touch, down by 0.05%, actually swinging between gains and losses. We're now back in the green. This follows, of course, yesterday's pullback, which according to Regina Capital was ahead of the portfolio rebalancing. Can you believe it's just one more day tomorrow and we end the month of June, the first 6 months of the year. And he also said this from Luis Limlingan that many are turning their attention to the data dump that is coming the rest of the week. You've got the manufacturing data, unemployment rate, trade balance coming out. And this, of course, comes with a lot of worries on the Delta variant. Offshore, you've got Australia on a lockdown in another capital region, third regional capital, and you've got Hong Kong now banning flights from the United Kingdom. Very quick peek on the movers this morning. We are 4 minutes into trade. MPIC leading the charge here, up by 1 3/10%, followed by Ayala Corporation. And on the downside, you've got Bloomberry, the loser this morning, down by 1 2/10%. But there is big news this morning, and that comes from RCBC, which has just released or confirmed some earlier reports. And take a look at the terminal now. It is now on a circuit breaker halt. I'm just going to pull out the 3-day chart for you so you can see that major spike. It had hit 44% increase at the open. This, of course, as they have confirmed reports that they will be investing 10 billion yen. That SMFG, that is, of course, Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, will be investing 10 billion yen in RCBC. That is a 4.99% stake on a pro forma basis. And this, of course, increases the tier one capital for the banks, which they have said will support their long term asset growth and digital investments. And again, this comes after RCBC says it is selling 101.85 million common shares. The interesting part here is that the share price will be at 44 pesos each. This is more than double the last price of RCBC, which was, or the average price of RCBC. The last price was at 25 pesos and 20 centavos, right before the circuit breaker. But before then, it had closed at 17 pesos and 50 centavos. So again, 44 pesos being offered here, which is what Mitsui or at least Sumitomo Mitsui Bank believes that the share price is worth, and again triggering a circuit break here from the PSE. Very interesting developments there. We will be watching that throughout the day. Meanwhile, just one very quick check on AC Energy. This, as they've also discussed, that they've lent 1 billion pesos to Solar Philippines affiliate. They had disclosed that already previously. This will be via Provincia Investments, which is an affiliate of Solar Philippines, for developing solar projects in the Philippines. AC Energy down a touch by 1% to 8 pesos and 33 centavos this morning. Checking in on the biggest headlines this morning, Bangko Sentral Governor Ben Diokno believes that the Philippines will be delisted from the FATF's gray list in less than 2 years. That is, if the government shows that it can effectively implement tighter laws against money laundering and terrorism financing. Diokno explained that the country needs time to show effectiveness of recent laws against money laundering and counterterrorism financing. This includes the controversial Anti-Terror Act of 2020, as well as RA 11521, which further strengthened the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001. Diokno said that the government remains committed to swiftly resolving the remaining 18 strategic deficiencies of the country within agreed timeframes to successfully exit from the FATF's gray list. Well, that is, of course, another issue the country did not need right now, but how worried should we really be about being back on FATF's watch list? Here to chat with us, we have with us Attorney Mel Georgie Rosella. He's the Executive Director of the Anti-Money Laundering Council. Good morning, Attorney, and welcome to the broadcast.
Good morning, Danny, and good morning to your viewers.
Sir, please clarify. This is something we've been reporting on, a possibility that might have happened, and here we are. It's official. We are back on that gray list. Can you say that the AMLC did everything to avoid this? Was this something a long time coming? Something that the pandemic exacerbated?
Okay, just to put that in proper context, Danny. So we underwent the mutual evaluation, a third round mutual evaluation in 2018. And the report came out in 2019 and approved by the Financial Action Task Force on the same year. So there were 70 recommended actions under that report. The Philippines was able to deliver 52 of the 70. And so we were placed in the gray list because those 18 remained, and we need to still demonstrate effective compliance or effective implementation of our laws and regulations. Of course, the pandemic affected the delivery or demonstration of our effective implementation because what remained are some of the prosecution of cases, particularly on terrorism financing, other actions that are expected in regard to implementation of our new laws, particularly on proliferation financing of weapons of mass destruction. So these are new provisions in the law that was introduced in January of 2021. So yes, I think it partially affected our demonstration of effective implementation.
Okay, sir, but despite this, can you say that compared to the past, we are actually improving when it comes to keeping stock of terrorism financing, of preventing anti-money laundering, and it's just a matter of complying with certain deficiencies, or can you say that it has significantly weakened the security of our banking space?
Most definitely, I think we have improved a lot. As a matter of fact, just to again put the mutual evaluation in proper context, this third round of mutual evaluation assessed the country's technical as well as effectiveness compliance. So previously, we were merely assessed in regard to our technical compliance. What does this mean? Technical compliance means whether or not it's merely an assessment of whether or not we have the laws, rules, and regulations. And that's why when we passed all the laws, we already complied with the technical compliance. So for the 18 action plans that remained, there is no legislative measure that is expected from the country. So we have placed all the statutes, all the laws, and the Congress has passed all the laws necessary for us to implement. So it's just a matter of implementation. But again, uh, having or demonstrated 52 effective compliance or effectiveness in regard to compared to 70 recommended actions, I think it's a good indication that we are properly implementing.
Sir, what about the bank secrecy law, which has not yet, the amendments at least to this have not yet been tackled, or should, this prompt the Congress to fast track that? How important is this for the FATF?
Okay, so the bank deposit secrecy law is not affected by the AMLC, or let me put it this way: this is an issue that is being pushed by Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, in
Mhm.
that they want to have stronger supervisory function or authority over their covered persons or supervised entities. Because I say this because the Financial Action Task Force has already rated the
Okay.
Philippines insofar as the Financial Intelligence Unit or the AMLC is concerned as compliant and largely compliant in regard to the bank deposit secrecy laws.
Mhm.
Meaning, the FIU or the AMLC has unimpeded access. And this is recognized by the Anti-Money Laundering Act as amended by subsequent laws.
Okay, so it's not a direct measure that might change the gray list status right now. Sir, just clarify for us and our viewers here, what does it mean right now in practice to be on the gray list? Gov Diokno had already mentioned this will not, materially affect anything. There are no real sanctions. It's just a matter of compliance. But will there be any impact on the economy? For example, foreign fund flows, or the transactions might be more difficult for funds to be coming in, especially at a time where we need to augment the budget.
Danny, the gray listing simply means that we missed delivering all of the expected outputs from our mutual evaluation in 2018 and report as approved by the Financial Action Task Force in 2019. And so by missing those recommended actions, we were gray listed. So this means that the Financial Action Task Force will continue or closely monitor the Philippines' compliance with the remaining 18 strategic deficiencies as noted by the joint group assessors. So in regard to repercussions, there is no direct repercussion yet because countries will not, or members of the Financial Action Task Force will not impose countermeasures just because a country is gray listed. It will
Okay.
only impose sanctions if we miss the deadline. So each of the 18 action plans have their own deadlines, and if we miss those deadlines, it is only then that members
Okay, we seem to have lost Attorney Mel, but anyway, very interesting insights there. He did mention that the bank secrecy law is more a measure of the Banco Central to be able to regulate the financial industry better, but it's not necessarily related to this gray list watching. And he did mention that despite the gray listing, we have improved in more dimensions than we have failed. So thank you again. That was, of course, Attorney Mel Georgie Rosella, Executive Director of the Anti-Money Laundering Council. And that's a first look into the business day. Today is June 29, 2021. Catch Business World Live for the market close. It's at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Danny Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.